What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
History of Technique Astra J is a direct descendant of very successful Opel Kadett E. Yes, and the first generation of Astra, Astra F, which appeared in 1991, also had the second name Kadett. Then there were Astra G, 1998 to 2004, and very successful in Russia generation Astra H, 2004 to 2007. Astra H owes much of its success to localization of assembly in Russia. The majority of cars of the fourth generation i.e. our Astra J are also assembled in Russia at the General Motors plant in Shushry. However, there the assembly started only in 2010, and in Europe the production and sale of Astra J began in 2009. This car was built on the Delta II platform, and its closest relative was the Chevrolet Cruze. However, externally these cars are not similar. I do not want to call Cruze ugly, it is even cute in some places, but it is far from Astra J. Astra has adopted a lot of things from more expensive Opel Insignia, which went in its favor. Unlike Cruze, there is a very bright design and very qualitative and interesting interior and a very wide range of motors and boxes. Astra looks much more expensive than Cruze, and besides, it attracted buyers by very tempting at that time motors. There were turbocharged motors of the same volumes, but more economical and powerful enough. However, not all of them turned out to be reliable, but their owners found out about it later. Besides, Astra J, one of the first in class, could boast a 6-speed automatic gearbox that, in combination with a bright interior, made it a very attractive option for purchase. And it was bought really well until the sad fact that the factory in Russia closed in 2015. In the end, it so happened that Astra J became the last Astra, and we never saw the next generation Astra K. Opel Astra J 2009 to 15. We must admit that Astra J is a car quite contradictory. It really has a lot of advantages, but also some disadvantages are rather serious, and not for nothing one of reviews about possession of this Astra is named by the author Ballad About Gangrene. For example, there are practically no good gearboxes here, but let's better read what their owners say about their cars. Let's start at once with the contradiction, without going too deep into unnecessary comments. For example, the interior. It seems to be satisfied with it, but it has one drawback, which makes many people mad. There are not very well thought out places where you could put all sorts of small things. There is no drawer, or at least a place to put your cell phone. I'm not even talking about cigarettes. It is really difficult to call it any serious disadvantage, but they speak about it very often, though rather monotonously. There are few cup holders in salon and pockets. Glove compartment is small and of 2 halves. It is inconvenient. There is no pocket on a panel, except for a small recess. In general, there is nothing more to say. Further will be much more interesting. Yeah, one more time about the salon. Only now good. Despite the fact that some defects in its organization are noted by many people, almost everyone is happy about its quality, normal seats and good plastic, beautiful interior, pleasant and qualitative finishing. There is no squeaking of plastic even in frost. Plastic and fabric do not look cheap, pleasant to the touch. It is possible to continue endlessly, but I will not do it, boring. I will note only that some dissatisfaction sometimes causes cosm, which in Astra is not of the highest quality. Otherwise, beauty and almost luxury, of course, with correction for class of the car. But the review is cursed by everyone. And that forward, that back. Wide massive body struts are to blame for the front. At operation minuses are visibility. Wide struts interfere. You really have to twist your head, especially when approaching pedestrians. It happened that pedestrians were not noticed and rolled on hoods, so the call to be more attentive is in half of reviews. Bulky front side racks, poor visibility at turns. You need to be more attentive. Opel Astra J 2009 to 15. The reason for poor rearward visibility is the small rear window. At the same time, I have not encountered any issues with review mirrors, and if you use them, there are fewer difficulties when driving in reverse than when turning and looking for pedestrians hiding behind the front pillars. Apparently, there is a sense in the calls to be careful. Since the Astra J is built on the same Delta II platform as the Chevrolet Cruze, there are no questions about the popularity of parts. Yes, at the beginning of appearance of these cars on our market, some owners spat from impudence of GM with their prices for parts. Over time, everything settled down, a large number of analogs appeared, and parts became more affordable. Sometimes they say simply, the cost of parts and service is very low, but that's not quite true. Some spare parts are quite expensive, and it is possible to keep the car budgetary under one condition: look for parts among analogs. And then their cost will please. I bought spare parts and exist for unrealistically low price tags, so it was not expensive to invest in it at all. Cheap spare parts, and there is a lot of them. There is a lot of them, but you need them a lot and quite often. I'd say regularly. Because here we get to the interesting stuff. Yes, the number of chronic diseases in Astra J is a bit off the scale. Some of them drive owners to frenzy, some breakdowns are inevitable and rather expensive, and some just upset by their quantity. Sometimes they are not even listed because they don't remember, but are treated with general phrases, constant small non-critical breakdowns due to the manufacturer's economy on components. Someone remembers something specific: on one rear door, the column, window elevator, lock stopped working, electric wires were broken. Brake pedal sensor, brake light blinks. And almost all of them painfully conclude, there is always something to change. Here I will also include one very frequent malfunction: regularly burned out ignition module coils are on the same bar, which increases the cost of the part. A lot of people encounter this, so they sadly report, the ignition module is a consumable. I should add that this consumable is far from cheap, although if you want, you can find a more affordable analog. Surprisingly, almost all Astra owners are satisfied with both the quality of metal and paintwork. The paintwork is excellent, no chips are still visible, very good quality of metal, high corrosion resistance. Usually, complaints about paintwork are found only for cars of the first years of production. There are few complaints about later ones even now, when their age is already approaching 10 years. Yes, it happens that someone suffers from chips, but very many people notice that the chips are not in a hurry to rust. Separately, we would like to say about how Opel drivers estimate thickness and weight of metal. Astra J turned out to be rather heavy, but almost nobody is upset by it. The thickness of metal of a body, doors are massive. Heavy in comparison with classmates, and not as thin in Korean and Japanese autos. Let their owners forgive me for bitter truth. Heavy doors and lack of visible corrosion gives the car a feeling of reliability, although much else this feeling is ruined at the root. What the Astra of this generation is not lucky with is the automatic gearboxes. There are several of them, but all of them are of the same blood. With 1.6-liter atmospheric motors, there is GM 6030 automatic transmission, with turbocharged 1.4-liter 6040, with turbocharged 1.6 6045. With 2-liter diesels there is a completely different box, Aisin TF81 SC, but we have almost no such cars. And it is a pity, because all above-mentioned automatic transmissions of GM turned out not quite successful. Let's give a word to the owners. All positive impressions from the car were killed by automatic transmission. Feelings at driving are as if the engine and the box are not created for joint work, the engine by itself, the automatic transmission by itself. I do not say anything about adaptability of the box at all, that does not exist. I tried to drive carefully, not forcing the car, but for 50,000 mileage 2 times repaired the automatic. Stories about repair at mileage from 50 to 100,000 kilometers are not isolated. And it is very sad. And one more reason for sadness is the fact that these boxes often break suddenly when nobody expects it from them. I had no time to enjoy the delights of comfort and driving on an automatic, but I stood in the middle of the road, behind a traffic light. Astra refused to go, jerked a couple of times, the box is tugging. After some efforts there was some scraping from the box and had to call a tow truck. In the service the verdict, overhaul of the automatic transmission, the drum was jammed. However, some people do not like the standard operation of the box kicks, gears shift sharply, periodically jerks. What is the reason of breakdowns? There are many reasons. Boxes have stressful thermal regime, because of which all frictions wear out quickly. VFS solenoids do not digest dirty and, what is even more important, hot oil, and these transmissions also have problems with cooling. Well, the main cause of the above-described sudden breakdown is the failure of the retaining ring of drum 456. It is almost impossible to predict it. You have to drive and wait for this ring to fall apart. Against the background of these problems, it is especially sad that the most popular engines, atmospheric 1.4 and 1.6 liters, and sometimes with 1.8 liter, are equipped with a manual gearbox of F17 series. And it is also unsuccessful. Differential and secondary shaft bearings fail. In general, this Astra is unlucky with the transmission, and it makes many people very upset and even angry. By and large, the turbocharged engines A14 net, A14 NEL and A16 LET are almost the same as the atmospheric A14 XER and A16 XER with the same major drawbacks. Many feared that the low-volume 1.4-liter motors would be insufficiently reliable, but strangely enough, the fears were not justified. All their faults are almost the same as in A14 XER, but sometimes the turbine could break down. And it was considered not so high payment for good dynamics together with rather modest fuel consumption. Therefore, many people, not hiding happiness, reported the configuration 1.4 turbo with 6 ACPP in combination gives economical consumption at measured movement and very sharp rise on accelerations and overtaking. Or a reasonably sharp engine. It seems to be only 140 horsepower and the weight of the car is 1,400 kilograms, but I never felt like a turtle in the general flow. At the same time, many people were glad that usually cars with such motors were equipped with automatic transmission. At first the reviews were optimistic, 6-speed automatic transmission, thanks to which even at active driving in the city the average consumption does not exceed 10 liters, works smoothly, without kicks and jolts. Then joy from these boxes became noticeably less, but dynamics and economy of Astra with turbocharged engine and automatic transmission are praised by almost everyone. Though words sometimes too strange, the power is always enough. Scrappy engine, God forbid. These motors used 3 times do not suffer from scuffles. By the way, power with atmospheric motors is also usually enough for everyone. And that's a good thing, of course. Well, what can I say? Let me first just give a few quotes. Everywhere leaks, you just have time to fix it all the time. Thermostat and heat exchanger gaskets leaked in thrust, crankshaft oil seal replacement, thermostat gasket leak and defective tank, thermostat dies every 30,000. 6 XER. You get the impression that the whole cooling system is leaking here. And it is not so far from the truth. Very often heat exchangers, thermostats, cooling system pipes of automatic transmission flow. In addition, expansion tanks often burst. Here, for example, is a classic example which collected almost everything. One time I changed the thermostat, 2 times cooling tubes of automatic transmission. The disease of all Opels with automatic transmission, their resource is enough for 1 year. Changed the oil seals of heat exchanger, also the disease of this model. It appeared in a surprising way. There were oil drops in the expansion tank of cooling system, a terrible shortcoming of GM. How can a rubber gland separate 2 systems from each other, lubrication system and cooling system? Amazing. Or this, over time, the heat exchanger gasket starts to leak. The cooling system T is constantly oozing antifreeze. The expansion tank at 40 to 60,000 kilometers is already cracked. It can be cured only by replacing these parts. There are always complaints about these parts. And everyone knows that the battle with the cooling system is endless. Sometimes there is a joyful victory cry. It is someone lucky to eliminate all leaks for a while, replacing the thermostat with a more colder one. Alas, this is no panacea either, and a puddle of antifreeze under the Astra is pretty much the norm. I never thought that I would put the ability of the car to start in any frost on the first place. However, here I am. It is impossible to pass by the phrases which are repeated almost in every review. Starts in any frost with the first time, starts in strong frost with the first attempt, starts in frost with a half a turn. Up to 30C I did not warm up the car at all, starts without problems in cold weather. They often give some shocking figures, -38 without warming up from the key fob of the alarm system. At the first attempt, it starts quietly at 30 on mineral oil, I had to start it when at WAS 42 outside without heating. It is surprising that they write this about cars with different motors, both atmospheric and turbocharged. Unfortunately, there is a small disadvantage: turbocharged motors, judging by reviews, take a long time to warm up, and the first kilometers in the cabin you have to freeze. Well, it is still better than walking. It would be possible to put on the first place the admiration of Astra J design, but it would be too banal and obvious, though it is also very pleasant. It is only a pity that all this beauty is spoiled by gearboxes and a tendency to leak both standing on the spot and on the road. After all, practicality should stand above aesthetics, especially when it comes to Opel. In conclusion, the Opel Astra J presents a compelling case for both buyers and non-buyers alike. On one hand, its impressive fuel efficiency, comfortable interior, and solid safety ratings make it an attractive option for many drivers. On the other hand, potential drawbacks such as limited rear space, average performance, and concerns about long-term reliability may deter some. Ultimately, the decision to buy or not to buy the Opel Astra J depends on your individual needs and priorities. We hope this video has provided you with valuable insights to help you make an informed choice. Thank you for watching.